My beloved child, come closer, let me speak to your heart in a way that your spirit can understand. Tonight, the heavens trembled with a message so urgent, so heavy, that even I felt my breath leave me for a moment. And when I looked into the vision that was opened before me, I saw something I never expected to witness with my own eyes. Archangel Michael, the warrior of heaven, the undefeated commander, was crying. Yes, my child. The mighty one who stands at the gates of glory, whose sword flashes like lightning, whose feet shake the foundations of darkness. He was weeping. Not soft tears, not gentle emotion, but a desperate cry, the cry of one who sees a danger approaching so quickly that the earth is not yet ready to understand it. The moment I saw him, I knew this message is not ordinary. This is not one of those whispers that angels send quietly into the hearts of men. No. This was a shout from the heavens, a divine alarm bell ringing through the spiritual realm. And he was looking for you. He was searching the earth with eyes of fire, scanning nations, cities, households, and souls. And with every passing moment, the urgency in him grew stronger. My child, the Archangel was not crying in fear. He was crying because his heart burned to warn you before something unbelievable arrives at your doorstep. I felt the air shift. I felt the atmosphere close in. The message was clear. Tell them. Tell them before it's too late. Something hidden, something dark, something that was done in secret, something that took something from you, has reached its breaking point. And heaven is no longer silent. Heaven is no longer watching quietly. Heaven has stepped into motion. But the question is, are you listening? There is a stirring in the spirit. There is a vibration in the unseen realm. There is an approaching moment so shocking that the natural mind cannot explain it. But the angels know. The heavens know. And Michael himself has cried out so that you may be prepared. Stay with me now, my beloved child. Do not drift. Do not wander. My beloved child, lean in once more. Let your spirit settle, because what I am about to unfold is not light, nor common, nor easily spoken. After I saw Archangel Michael weeping, the vision did not fade. It grew sharper, clearer, heavier, as though the heavens themselves wanted to make sure I could not misunderstand a single detail. His cry was not the cry of weakness. It was the cry of a general who has seen a danger moving towards someone he is sworn to protect. I saw him standing upon a great expanse, a place where the sky was not like the sky of the earth. It swirled with colors the human eye cannot fully comprehend. Light moved like waves, and the air trembled with a hum of divine power. And there he was, tall and fierce, with a presence that made everything around him bow. His armor gleamed as if forged from lightning itself, and his sword hung at his side, glowing with a fire that never goes out. Yet despite all this majesty, despite all this strength, tears streamed down his face. My child, imagine the weight of that moment. Imagine seeing the greatest warrior of heaven, the undefeated one, touched by emotion so deep that even the atmosphere around him quivered. I knew then that this warning was not meant to frighten you, but to awaken you. Angels do not cry without purpose. They do not tremble without reason. And Michael, the Prince of Heaven's armies, does not raise his voice unless something dangerous is moving in the shadows. As he cried, his voice echoed like thunder across the spiritual realm. It was not chaotic thunder. It was purposeful, direct, commanding. Every word he spoke carried the sound of truth, and every sound carried urgency. I could feel that his tears were not sorrowful tears. They were tears of divine compassion mixed with fierce determination. They were the tears of a guardian who refuses to let darkness touch the one he is assigned to watch. Michael lifted his head, and when his eyes opened, they were bright like burning stars. He was not defeated. He was not afraid. No, my child. He was warning. He was roaring. He was crying out because you needed to hear the message before the hour struck. And in that moment, the heavens were silent, as if all other angels stepped back to let him speak. He said, though not with earthly words, but with a spiritual sound that entered directly into my understanding, that something was taken from you. Something precious. Something that belonged to your destiny. Something that heaven gave you, that the enemy dared to reach for. And though darkness moved in secret, thinking no one would notice, Michael saw it. Heaven recorded it. And the violation struck the very order of the spiritual realms. That is why he cried. Not because he was powerless, but because justice had reached its tipping point. Heaven does not act recklessly. Heaven waits, watches, records, measures, and then moves at the appointed time. But now, that time is here. And Michael knows what is approaching next will shake things in the physical world in a way you never expected. As he cried out, the heaven beneath his feet cracked with brilliant light. His wings spread wide, stretching farther than horizons. And in that opening of his wings, I saw the manifestation of divine authority. His cry was the sound of a warning, but his stance was the stance of a warrior ready to take action. The combination was overwhelming. Even in the vision, I felt as though my very bones trembled. He looked down toward the earth, toward your life, your path, your family, your purpose. His voice shook the air once more, and it sounded as if he was saying, "Be prepared. Be awake. Be aware. Something has been set in motion. Something that heaven has chosen to confront. Something that will no longer remain hidden. My beloved child, listen closely. The cry of an archangel is not a cry of despair. It is a decree. It is a declaration. It is a divine signal that a battle has already begun in the spirit, and the outcome is already determined in your favor. But you must understand the weight of the message. Michael did not cry because he was defeated. He cried because you were not yet aware of what is unfolding. He cried because heaven needed to awaken you before the unbelievable moment arrives. What moment? You ask. What event is so unbelievable that even the Archangel released a desperate cry? That answer is coming, and it will shake you. But before that, you must understand what was taken from you, and how far heaven is willing to go to restore it. My beloved child, let your heart be steady as we walk deeper into this revelation. The tears of Archangel Michael were not without cause. They were drawn out by something that happened long before you noticed anything was missing. For in the quiet corners of your life, in the unseen stretches of your journey, something was taken from you. Not stolen in the way people on earth steal through hands or pockets, but taken in a way only the spirit realm understands. You see, my child, heaven releases blessings in many forms. Some blessings come as ideas, some as opportunities, some as relationships, some as seasons, and some as quiet inner gifts meant to shape your destiny. These things are entrusted to you by divine design. They belong to your path. They are written into your story. And when something is written in heaven's script, no darkness has the right to touch it. But darkness often attempts to reach where it does not belong. What was taken from you was not small. It was not insignificant. It was something tied to your identity, something connected to your future, something that held weight in the spiritual realm. Perhaps it was peace that once flowed easily. Perhaps it was confidence that used to rise naturally. Perhaps it was a dream that suddenly felt unreachable, or a blessing that slipped away before it ever entered your hands. You may have felt shifts, moments where things that should have been yours seemed to dissolve. You may have felt the sting of loss without understanding its source. But heaven saw. Michael saw. And the reason he cried was because what was taken unjustly, taken with intent, taken through spiritual interference that had no authority to touch what belonged to you. The Archangel's tears were not sorrow for the theft itself, but sorrow for how long you carried the weight of it without knowing the truth. Heaven had to reveal it. Heaven had to expose the hidden hands behind the scene. In the vision, as I stood watching Michael's wings stretch across the heavens, I noticed something shimmering beneath him, like a map of lives and destinies, glowing softly. Paths, moments, blessings, journeys, they all appeared as streams of light. And on your stream, I saw a dimming, a faint shadow stretching across a portion of what belonged to you. Not the entire river, not your whole destiny, but a segment, a portion that had been interfered with. And Michael pointed to it with a trembling hand, as if saying, "This is what they took. This is what they reached for." My child, when heaven gives you something, it is placed in your spiritual account long before it shows up in the physical world. People may steal physical property, but darkness tries to steal spiritual inheritance, because that inheritance is what shapes the visible world. When something is lost in the spirit, the physical world reflects it eventually, through delay, disappointment, confusion, or sudden loss of momentum. Yet most people never realize what occurred behind the scenes. But you are not most people. Heaven refuses to let you remain unaware. The urgency of Michael's cry was heaven tearing the veil open so you could finally see what you are owed, what must be restored, and what divine justice is about to reclaim on your behalf. As I watched the shadow over your path in the vision, I saw it flicker as if it sensed it had been exposed. Darkness trembles when light reveals its position. And I heard a sound like chains cracking. Not earthly chains, but spiritual restraints breaking apart as Michael raised his sword. It was as if heaven declared, "Enough. Enough of interference. Enough of delay. Enough of taking what is not theirs." The tears of Michael were turning into fire. The sorrow was turning into force. His wings curled inward for a moment, gathering strength, and then expanded outward with such power that the entire spiritual sky shook. It was a sign that a shift had begun, that the theft could no longer remain in effect, that what was taken must be returned. My beloved child, listen closely now. When heaven restores something that was taken, it does not return it in the same condition. Heaven returns it multiplied, strengthened, purified, and wrapped in divine protection, so the enemy can never touch it again. The cry of the Archangel was the announcement that your restoration has begun. The tears were the signal that heaven is intervening directly in your affairs. And the urgency was because heaven has already positioned itself to confront the one responsible. My beloved child, breathe deeply and walk with me into this next revelation. For what I am about to share must be spoken slowly and understood in the spirit. When we speak of the one who crossed the line, we are not speaking of a physical person you can point to, accuse, or identify by name. Heaven is not in the business of stirring chaos among people. No, my child. What I speak of is a representation, a spiritual figure, an influence, a force that took on the shape of a person in the vision for the sake of clarity. This presence symbolized the source of interference that reached into your destiny without permission. In the vision, as Michael pointed toward the shadow that stretched across your path, I saw it begin to shift, to twist, to form something like a silhouette. It had no face, no body, no human form, yet its shape mimicked one. It stood like a person, moved like a person, and held itself like one who believed it had a right to stand where it stood. But my spirit knew instantly that this was not a man or woman of the earth. It was the embodiment of an influence, an attack, a pressure, a spiritual intruder that had found a weak opening and used it to touch what did not belong to it. My child, many times in life you encounter moments that feel as though someone has worked against you, spoken against you, plotted against you. But often, behind those earthly moments, there is a deeper, unseen source. Not a human enemy, but a spiritual one. The vision made it clear that what interfered with your blessing did not originate from flesh and blood. It was something darker, something strategic, something operating quietly behind circumstances, emotions, or sudden disruptions. It acted like a person, but it was not a person. It was a force that slipped in through discouragement, through exhaustion, through delay, or through the cracks that form when you are overwhelmed. As this shadow stood there, I felt a chill run through the vision, not the cold of fear, but the cold of exposure. Darkness is always uneasy when the light shines upon its face. And in that moment, Michael stepped forward, the tears still on his face, but now glowing like molten gold. The Archangel's gaze was fixed on the shadow, and the authority in his stance made it clear. This presence had crossed a divine line. My beloved child, heaven sets boundaries around every life. These boundaries are spiritual walls, hedges of protection, barriers that keep what is yours safe from corruption. But there are moments when, due to spiritual weariness or prolonged battles, these walls thin slightly. Not because you failed, but because human hearts can only carry so much weight before cracks appear. And in those cracks, the symbolic figure found a moment to reach in. What it took was not physical. It was something woven into your destiny. It may have still a season of joy, a moment of breakthrough, a measure of confidence, or a sense of clarity. It may have taken your energy, your peace, or your alignment with purpose. You may have felt confused, lost, delayed, or drained without knowing why. But now heaven has revealed the culprit, not a human enemy, but a spiritual interference that disguised itself as one. In the vision, this figure trembled as Michael's attention settled on it. For the Archangel does not fight battles lightly, and he does not confront forces unless heaven has issued a decree. What I witnessed next was not simply a confrontation, but an unveiling of heaven's justice. The shadow stepped back, as if trying to retreat, but the realm around it locked into place. It tried to hide behind the darkness, but the light followed it. It tried to shrink, but the presence of Michael forced it to remain visible. Heaven was saying, "You cannot hide. You cannot flee. You touched what you were never permitted to touch, and now the order of justice must fall. My child, I want you to understand something very important. Heaven does not pursue vengeance on people. Heaven pursues justice against spiritual forces that interfere with divine destiny. This is why the vision used the form of a person, because heaven needed to show you that something acted like an enemy toward you, even though it was never human. The one who crossed the line was an influence, a hindrance, a spiritual violator, and heaven has decided its time is over." Michael's wings lifted slightly, and the atmosphere shook with power. The shadow recoiled, shrinking under the weight of divine authority. And as this happened, I heard a sound like a heavenly decree, being announced in a courtroom beyond sight. It was not in earthly language, but its meaning was unmistakable. The interference has been exposed. Its access has been revoked. My beloved child, this is why Michael wept. Not because the enemy was strong, but because the enemy dared to reach for something sacred. And now, the Archangel stands as the witness, the protector, and the enforcer of the justice that is about to unfold in your life. My beloved child, come closer still, for what I am about to reveal is one of the most powerful moments in the vision. After the shadowy figure, a spiritual violator, was exposed, the heavens shifted. The atmosphere grew dense, almost trembling, as if all creation paused to witness what would unfold next. The tears on Michael's face dried, but they left a glow upon his cheeks, like embers after a fire. His sorrow had transformed into authority, into righteous strength, into the unwavering stance of a heavenly commander prepared to carry out a decree. My child, what I witnessed next was something I had only read about in ancient mysteries, but never seen with my own eyes. Michael lifted his right hand, and light streamed from it, forming what looked like a scroll made from pure brilliance. It was not paper. It was not earthly. It was a divine order, a heavenly warrant issued not by angels, not by prophets, not by elders, but by the throne of God himself. This scroll pulsed with living fire, as though the words upon it were alive. I understood in that moment that heaven had reached its decision. The one who interfered with your destiny, the influence that dared to touch what belonged to you, was being held accountable under divine law. Not human law, not earthly consequence, but divine justice. A spiritual arrest was being executed. My child, hear me clearly. When Helen issues an arrest warrant, it does not refer to prison cells or earthly chains. It refers to the binding and restraining of the spiritual force that has acted against your life. It is the moment where the enemy that once moved freely is suddenly stopped, seized, restricted, and forbidden from operating any further. It is heaven saying, "Enough." It is heaven declaring, "This ends now." As Michael held the scroll, his wings spread wide and the skies above him opened like a veil being pulled aside. I saw ranks of angels standing at attention, each one glowing with power. These were not messengers. These were enforcers, heavenly guards, warriors of justice, sent to carry out the decree written upon that scroll. They did not move until Michael spoke. They waited for the command, because only he had the authority to initiate what was about to take place. Michael lifted his sword, and the blade burst with intense light. Brighter than 1,000 suns, yet soft enough not to harm the soul. He pointed it toward the shadow that had taken shape before us. The shadow trembled, shrinking, bending, shaking as if it felt the weight of the words that were about to be spoken. Then Michael released a sound. Not a shout, not a cry, but a decree so powerful that it vibrated through the vision and into the depths of my spirit. Though no earthly words were used, I understood the meaning perfectly. It was this: "You have crossed the boundary set by heaven. You have taken what was not yours. You have interfered with the destiny of the one marked by God. Your access is revoked. Your influence is broken. You are bound." The moment that decree was spoken, the angels surrounding him moved as one. They descended like streams of lightning and circled the shadowy figure. They did not attack it. They confined it. They closed around it with divine chains, chains not made of metal, but of light so pure that darkness could not escape. The shadow struggled, but it had no strength. It had no authority. Its power dissolved in the presence of heaven's justice. My beloved child, it was in that moment I understood why Michael cried. His tears were not of mourning. They were the tears shed just before justice is released. The tears that fall when heaven moves in compassion and power simultaneously. It was a cry that said, "I will not let this continue. I will not allow this child to walk another day unaware of what has been done or what heaven is now doing." As the shadow was bound, the scroll dissolved into pure light, which flowed upward into the sky like a completed decree. Heaven had executed judgment. The case was settled. The interference was arrested, and the power that once worked against you was rendered powerless. Michael turned then, not toward the shadow, not toward the angels, but toward you. His eyes held no more tears. They held purpose. They held strength. They held the fire of a guardian who has fulfilled his assignment. And what I sensed from him was this: now the way is open. Now restoration can begin. Now what was taken can return without resistance. My beloved child, as a father speaking to you with the weight of heaven behind my words, I must tell you this truth. When heaven fights for you, the earth will eventually see the results. A spiritual arrest always leads to a physical shift. Doors reopen. Peace returns. Clarity rises. Opportunities flow. You will see the signs. My beloved child, Come nearer still. The vision did not end with the binding of the shadowy presence. No, that moment was only the beginning of a much greater shift that was unfolding in the heavens. After the arrest in the spirit realm was completed, the atmosphere changed. It was as if a great wind swept across the heavens, yet no physical wind moved. It was something deeper, something spiritual, something that signaled that a divine turnaround had begun. And this, my child, is where the unbelievable event begins to unfold. As I stood in that vision, with the image of Michael's blazing sword still etched into the sky, I saw light begin to ripple outward from the place where the shadow had been bound. It spread like a wave moving across water, carrying with it a sound so gentle, yet so powerful, that it made every part of me stand still. It was the sound of restoration waking up. It was the sound of something lost beginning to return. It was the sound of heaven rewriting part of your story. Then the light moved again, this time forming a pathway that stretched far, far beyond what my eyes could follow. It pulsed softly, invitingly, as if heaven itself was illuminating the direction your life was now shifting toward. That is when Michael stepped forward, and the atmosphere bent around him, aligning itself with the weight of his presence. He pointed toward the glowing path, and though he spoke no words, the meaning entered my spirit clearly. Heaven had not only removed the interference. Heaven was preparing for the release of something you have waited for, something that felt delayed, something that seemed impossible. My beloved child, listen closely now, for this is where the unbelievable event begins to reveal itself. I saw moments from your life, moments where you felt stuck, moments where you felt overlooked, moments where you felt forgotten, start to rise from the path like small clouds, and as they rose, they dissolved into light. It was as though heaven was erasing the weight of the struggles you carry. Every disappointment, every delay, every closed door, every silent season that once pressed you down was being lifted. Heaven was clearing the residue left behind by the interference. And then, suddenly, the path shifted. A burst of light shot upward like a beacon. It was brighter than before, stronger than before, more alive than anything I had seen. This beacon was the sign, your sign, the sign Michael was warning you about. The unbelievable event is not destruction. It is not something fearful. It is the moment when what was held back begins to break through into your life. It is the moment when heaven says, now. Now the blessing shall manifest. Now the restoration begins before your eyes. But hear this carefully, my child. Heaven rarely releases something without first preparing the atmosphere for its arrival. That is why Michael cried. He saw what was coming. He saw the shift. He saw the breakthrough so close, so near, so ready to appear. Yet he also saw the interference that could have prevented it. His tears were not just for the warning. They were for the blessing, the breakthrough, the release that heaven did not want you to miss. And now I must tell you the truth plainly. Something unbelievable is about to happen in your life. Not in months, not in years, but in a way that will catch your breath and remind you that heaven has been watching you all along. You will see things move quickly. You will see things open suddenly. You will see people come into your life or exit your life with divine timing. And you will feel a weight lift from you in a way that you cannot explain, but will deeply recognize. As I continued watching the beacon of light, I noticed something else. The angels that had bound the shadow now took positions along the path, almost as guardians, almost as escorts. They stood there as if to say, nothing will hinder this anymore. Nothing will delay it. Nothing will touch what is coming. It is protected. It is sealed. It is ordained. Michael turned back toward me in the vision, and I felt his message resonate through my very bones. He was saying that heaven is preparing to bring clarity where confusion once lived, strength where weakness once lingered, opportunities where dryness once persisted. The unbelievable event is not merely a breakthrough. It is a complete shift in direction, a divine turning of the page, a sudden unveiling of what was always meant for you, but could not reach you until now. My beloved child, you may have felt as though nothing was happening in the physical world. But I assure you, in the spirit realm, everything has been moving. Heaven has been aligning. Angels have been preparing. Michael has been standing guard. And now, at last, the season of delay has been broken. My beloved child, rest your heart for a moment and receive this next revelation with the quiet reverence it deserves. For now we must speak of the one who has been nearer to your journey than you have ever realized. We must speak of Michael, the Archangel, not as a distant heavenly being, but as a guardian whose presence has traced the outlines of your life with unwavering loyalty. When heaven appoints an angelic guardian over a person's destiny, it is not done lightly. It is done with intention, with foresight, and with a depth of purpose that only heaven understands fully. And my child, what the vision revealed is that Michael has walked close to your path, not in every moment of life, but in every moment that carried weight, in every moment where destiny hung in the balance, in every moment where spiritual interference dared to approach what God has written over you. You must understand that Michael is not an angel of soft whispers. He is the angel of war. He is the defender of divine order, the protector of destiny, the one who stands at the threshold between what God has promised and what darkness attempts to intercept. When he appears, it is because the spiritual realm has intensified. It is because something sacred is in motion. It is because heaven is ensuring that the story unfolds as it was written. My child, as I watched him in the vision, standing in a realm where time behaves differently, where light carries messages, where the air vibrates with eternal purpose, I realized how deeply invested he has been in your journey. There were moments where you felt alone, moments where you wondered if heaven heard your prayers, moments where you questioned if anyone, human or divine, truly understood the battles you face. But in the spirit, Michael stood, and he watched, and he fought. There were nights you could not sleep, not because of earthly worries alone, but because a spiritual pressure rested on your shoulders. What you did not see was the Archangel standing between you and the weight that tried to crush you. There were days where you felt confused or disrupted, not knowing why your path seemed clouded. What you did not see was the clash taking place in the unseen realm, where Michael resisted the forces that sought to twist your clarity. There were seasons where you felt delayed, not recognizing that heaven was restraining the enemy's attempts to interfere with your progress. And my beloved child, there were moments when you almost gave up. Not because you lacked strength, but because you were exhausted from battles you could not perceive. Yet in those moments, Michael's wings shielded you. His sword cut through paths you did not know were obstructed. His authority pushed back darkness you never saw forming. The reason he cried in the vision was not merely because of the interference that touched your destiny. No, his tears carried something deeper. They carried the weight of every moment he has fought for you. They carried the compassion of a guardian who has seen your struggles, your tears, your fears, your fatigue. They carried the love of heaven itself, expressed through the urgency of an archangel's heart. But his tears were also tears of triumph. They signaled a shift. They marked a transition. They were the final drops shed before he moved from warning to action. His cry was the last sound before justice was released. It was heaven exhaling before heaven intervened. And now you must understand the role he plays going forward. Michael does not step back after a breakthrough. Once he has stood for a person in a moment of crisis, he remains as the overseer of their forward path. This means, my child, that the next season of your life is not one you will walk into unprotected. No interference will approach unnoticed. No darkness will slip through unseen. Michael stands not only as your defender, but as your escort into what heaven is preparing for you next. And do not think that this shift happening now is small. When Michael moves, he moves with the weight of heaven behind him. When he clears the path, it does not reopen the darkness. When he protects a blessing, it remains protected. And when he steps forward to warn you, it is because something magnificent is on its way. Something so aligned with your destiny that the enemy tried desperately to prevent its arrival. My beloved child, you must carry this truth in your heart. Michael's involvement in your life is evidence that your destiny carries weight. Heaven does not dispatch warriors of this rank for ordinary stories. Heaven sends them when the path ahead contains greatness, influence, purpose, and divine assignment. The battles you have faced were not signs of weakness. They were signs of calling. My beloved child, let us walk together now into the heart of your prophetic destiny, for everything you have heard so far leads to this very place. What the heavens have been revealing is not only about the danger that approached you, nor only about the interference that reached into your journey. It is about what heaven has been preparing for you behind the scenes, even in the moments you felt nothing was moving. It is about the chapter of destiny that is now opening before you. A chapter that could not have begun until the shadow was removed, until the interference was judged, and until Michael cleared the way. My child, destiny is not a single event. It is a tapestry, woven through struggles, questions, victories, losses, and moments that feel too heavy to carry. And often, the most important threads are woven in seasons where you feel the least progress. I saw in the vision that your destiny has been watched carefully, guarded fiercely, and nurtured silently by heaven itself. You may have assumed that delays meant denial. You may have believed that silence meant abandonment. But heaven's silence is never emptiness. It is preparation. The roots of your destiny were growing deep while you thought nothing was happening. As the vision continued, the glowing path before Michael shifted again. This time, scenes began to rise from it. Scenes not from your past, but from your future. I could not see details, for heaven does not reveal every moment at once, but I saw the outlines. I saw doors opening before you, doors that had long been locked, doors that seemed unreachable. I saw relationships restoring themselves, or new ones forming with a divine glow around them, indicating alignment with your purpose. I saw blessings that were once delayed beginning to move toward you like waves returning to shore. And then I saw something even more profound. I saw your name, your spiritual name, the name heaven calls you by, written in radiant letters above your path. It pulsed with purpose. It pulsed with calling. It pulsed with assignments that only you can fulfill. And as your name glowed, I saw angels surrounding it, not to protect it from harm anymore, but to prepare the way for its fulfillment. Your destiny, my beloved child, is not fragile. It is fortified. It is anchored in a divine covenant that cannot be broken by the schemes of darkness. Michael then stepped to the side, revealing more of the illuminated road. I sensed from him that now that the interference had been judged, the destiny locked behind that interference could finally be released. What was taken from you will return, yes, but not in the same form. Heaven never restores with equality. Heaven restores with increase. What belonged to you spiritually will begin to manifest physically in ways that will leave you humbled, grateful, and aware that this was never the work of human hands. My child, hear me with your spirit. Prophetic destiny unfolds when three things align: divine timing, divine protection, and divine assignment. The timing has now shifted. The protection has been reinforced. And your assignment is rising to the surface. What once felt blocked will now feel guided. What once seemed confusing will now begin to make sense. The questions that weighed heavily on your heart will meet answers you did not expect. Do not be surprised, my child, when you begin to feel new strength rising in you. Do not be surprised when you feel renewed courage entering your decisions. Do not be surprised when clarity comes at moments you least expect. These are signs that the heaviness that once clouded you has been lifted, that the shadow which interfered with your blessing has been removed, that heaven is breathing direction into your steps. And listen closely, restoration is not only returning what was taken, it is also elevating you into what you could not reach because of the interference. There is a rising coming for you, a lifting, a divine acceleration that will make the months ahead feel unlike anything you have experienced before. The season of stagnation is over. The season of spiritual fog is breaking. You are stepping into a phase where heaven's voice will be clearer and heaven's hand will feel nearer. But remember this, my beloved child. Destiny is not fulfilled through striving. It is fulfilled through alignment. And you have now been aligned through revelation, through the action of heaven, through the defense of Michael, and through the exposure of what resisted you. You are not stepping into this next chapter alone. Heaven has gone before you. Heaven walks beside you. Heaven strengthens you behind the scenes. My beloved child, now that the fullness of this revelation has settled into your spirit, let me guide you gently into the next step of your journey. For destiny, no matter how divine its origin, still requires a willing heart to walk it out. Heaven can clear the path, Michael can guard it. The interference can be removed, but you must take the steps. And these steps, my child, are not heavy. They are not burdensome. They are light, simple, quiet movements of faith that carry tremendous power in the spiritual realm. When I looked upon the glowing road in the vision, after seeing your spiritual name written in radiance above it, I noticed something subtle yet profound. The path did not demand sprinting. It did not require rushing. It simply invited movement. It invited alignment. It invited trust. And that is what heaven asks of you now. Not to exhaust yourself with striving, but to walk forward with boldness and with calm confidence that you are no longer walking into a battlefield. You are walking into a prepared place. My beloved child, walking with bold faith does not mean feeling fearless. It means stepping, even when your emotions have not yet caught up to the truth. It means allowing heaven's voice to be louder than the echoes of old wounds. It means trusting that if Michael has cleared the way, then what stands before you is not another trap, but a true opening. Let me speak plainly to your heart. There will be moments in this next season where your mind may try to pull you back into old patterns. Patterns of doubt, patterns of worry, patterns of questioning whether you deserve what is coming. These patterns are not signs that interference has returned. They are simply the remnants of an old season trying to hold on. But the moment you recognize them and step forward anyway, heaven strengthens your steps. The angels reinforce your path, and clarity begins to flow again. I saw in the vision that as you walk this path, every step you take causes light to rise from the ground beneath you. Each step activates something. Each step awakens something. Each step signals to the spiritual realm that you are accepting the destiny heaven prepared for you, fully, boldly, willingly. You do not need to run. You simply need to move. My child, hear this with all your heart. Bold faith is not loud. It is steady. It is consistent. It is gentle. It is choosing to believe that the worst has already passed, that heaven has already fought the battles that were beyond your sight, and that now your only task is to walk and remain aware. This awareness is not fear. It is sensitivity. It is the ability to feel when heaven nudges you left or right, when your spirit feels peace or caution, when Michael whispers warning or encouragement. There will be signs along this path. Some will be subtle, moments of unexpected peace, sudden clarity, gentle reminders that you are not alone. Others will be undeniable, doors opening with divine precision, opportunities aligning in ways that feel orchestrated, people entering your life whose presence feels purposeful and timely. These signs are confirmations that you are walking in rhythm with heaven. But I must also tell you this truth. Walking forward with bold faith requires releasing what no longer belongs to your journey. Not everything from your past is meant to follow you into this next chapter. Some relationships, habits, fears, and old identities will gently fall away as you move forward. This is not loss. This is refinement. Heaven removes only what would weigh you down, only what would slow your progress, only what would cloud your clarity. My beloved child, the most important thing you can do now is remain open. Open to heaven's timing. Open to unexpected blessings. Open to new strength rising within you. Open to trusting that What was once difficult will now begin to flow with ease. When the interference was present, everything felt heavy. But now that it has been judged and restrained, you will notice a lightness returning to your spirit. In the next season of your life, you will not walk alone. Michael will walk ahead, clearing the unseen. Angels will walk beside you, aligning opportunities. Heaven will walk behind you, sealing your progress. And the Spirit will walk within you, guiding your inner steps. My beloved child, come and sit under this final moment with a quiet heart, for what I am about to speak is not merely a conclusion, but a seal. A seal placed upon your spirit, a seal placed upon your journey, and a seal placed upon everything the heavens have revealed through the cries of the Archangel. There is a holiness resting on this final part, and I ask you to receive it not with your mind alone, but with the deepest part of your being. As the vision began to close, the heavens did not dim. Instead, they brightened, as though the realm was preparing to stamp its final approval upon everything that had been declared. Michael stood tall, no longer weeping, no longer burdened, but shining with the fullness of his role. There was a solemn peace upon his face, the kind of peace that comes only after a victory has been fully secured. His sword, still glowing, hovered gently at his side, no longer in battle stance, but resting in authority. This was the image heaven wanted me to see last, an archangel standing in triumph over what once threatened you. My child, as I stood within that vision, I felt a great wind surround me, not a wind of chaos, but a wind of finality, a wind of completion. It was the kind of wind that blows just before a door closes and a new one opens. Heaven wanted you to know that the chapter marked by interference, delay, confusion, and spiritual heaviness has now come to an end. Not symbolically, not poetically, spiritually, definitively, completely. And then, as if the vision itself leaned forward toward the earth, a sound emerged, a soft yet powerful voice, not belonging to Michael, not belonging to any angel, but carried by the presence of the Holy One. It spoke into the very core of my being, and I speak it now into yours. What was taken shall be restored. What was delayed shall be released. What was opposed shall be accelerated, and what was hidden shall be revealed. My beloved child, this is your seal. This is your divine confirmation. Heaven has not only fought for you, it has ruled in your favor. The spiritual arrest that took place was not the end of the story. It was the clearing of space for the story to finally unfold, as it was written from the beginning. Destiny is no longer obstructed. Blessing is no longer blocked. Your steps are no longer hindered by invisible hands. As the vision continued to close, I saw something remarkable. The glowing path before you widened. It did not stay narrow. It expanded. It became a road of possibilities, a road of opportunities, a road where your steps would be guided by grace rather than resistance. And above the path, your spiritual name shone again, only this time it was brighter. It pulsed with the same rhythm as the heartbeat of heaven, as though your destiny was now synchronized with divine timing. Michael took one final step toward you, and though he did not speak with earthly words, the meaning entered my heart with clarity. He was saying, walk forward without fear. The past season is behind you. You owe nothing to the shadows that once pressed against you. You owe nothing to the doubts that once whispered in your mind. You owe nothing to the heaviness that once sat upon your shoulders. Everything that held you back has been judged. Everything that sought to confuse you has been silenced. Everything that tried to steal from you has been restrained. My child, as a father speaking to you with the weight of heaven on my tongue, I say this lovingly, but firmly. Do not shrink back now. Do not second-guess what heaven has already secured. You are stepping into a season where clarity will meet you in the morning. Strength will rise in you through the day, and purpose will settle upon you at night. The interference is gone. The path is open. Your destiny is calling. Before this vision closed entirely, heaven pressed one final instruction upon my heart, an instruction not of obligation, but of spiritual alignment. Share the message. Carry it forward. When a revelation of this weight enters the earth, it is not meant to be hidden under silence. Heaven desires that those who hear it, who feel it, who recognize its truth, help it travel. For in sharing it, you are not promoting a voice. You are partnering with heaven's warning and heaven's comfort. You are spreading light into darkened places. You are joining the Archangel in his effort to awaken others before the next divine shift. And, my beloved child, continue to walk with this house. Return to this well of revelation. Strengthen the place from which the message flows. When you do, you are not supporting a man. You are supporting the movement of heaven into the lives of those who need it most. Let your support become part of the divine echo, letting this word spread until it reaches every heart it was meant to reach. Now receive this blessing. May the God who sees in secret bring your restoration into the open. May the one who commands the heavens command your path into clarity. May the angels who fought for you now escort you into your promise. May Michael's tears become your triumph. May your destiny open without resistance, and may your heart walk boldly into what heaven has prepared for you. The seal is upon you now. Amen.